Saint Innocent I was a Roman. According to Saint Jerome, Innocent was the son of his predecessor, Anastasius I. From the beginning of his papacy, he was seen as the general arbitrator of ecclesiastical disputes in both the East and the West. He confirmed the prerogatives of the Archbishop of Thessalonica and issued a decretal on disciplinary matters referred to him by the Bishop of Rouen. He defended the exiled John Chrysostom and consulted with the bishops of Africa concerning the Pelagian controversy, confirming the decisions of the African synods. The Catholic priest-scholar Johann Peter Kirsch, 1500 years later, described Innocent as a very energetic and highly gifted individual who fulfilled admirably the duties of his office. Saint Zosimus was a Greek. Zosimus took a decided part in the protracted dispute in Gaul as to the jurisdiction of the See of Arles over that of Vienne, giving energetic decisions in favor of the former, but without settling the controversy. His fractious temper colored all the controversies in which he took part in Gaul, Africa, and Italy, including Rome, where at his death the clergy were very much divided. After the new synodal letter of the African Council of the 1st of May, 418 to the Pope, and after the steps taken by the Emperor Honorius against the Pelagians, Zosimus issued his Tractoria, in which Pelagianism and its authors were finally condemned. The Liber Pontificalis attributes to Zosimus a decree on the wearing of the maniple by deacons, and on the dedication of Easter candles in the country parishes. Also a decree forbidding clerics to visit taverns. Zosimus was buried in the sepulchral basilica of St. Lawrence outside the walls. Saint Boniface I was a Roman. Little is known of his life antecedent to his election. The Liber Pontificalis calls him a Roman and the son of the presbyter Jocundus. He is believed to have been ordained by Pope Damasus I and to have served as representative of Innocent I at Constantinople. Elected by most of the priests, he would eventually send his police to capture the anti-pope Eulalius, who was not only occupying the Lateran, but also relying on his support from the imperial family. Emperor Honorius would come to recognize Boniface's papal claim on the 3rd of April, 419. As Pope, Boniface would restore control of metropolitan powers to the chief bishops of provinces, undercutting Patroclus, the bishop of Arles' authority over all of Gaul. Boniface supported Augustine in combating Pelagianism, forwarding to him 2 Pelagian letters Boniface had received calumniating Augustine. In recognition of this solicitude, Augustine dedicated to Boniface his rejoinder contained in Contra duas Epistolas Pelaginoruin Libri Quatuor. He persuaded Emperor Theodosius II to return Illyricum to Western jurisdiction and defended the rights of the Holy See. Saint Celestine I was a Roman. He is said to have lived for a time at Milan with St. Ambrose. Celestine's tenure was largely spent combating various ideologies deemed heretical. In a letter to certain bishops of Gaul, dated 428, Celestine rebukes the adoption of special clerical garb by the clergy. He supported the mission of the Gallic bishops that sent Germanus of Auxerre in 429 to Britain to address Pelagianism, and later commissioned Palladius as bishop to the Scots of Ireland and northern Britain. In 430, he held a synod in Rome which condemned the apparent views of Nestorius. He sent Palladius to Ireland to serve as a bishop in 431. Bishop Patrick continued this missionary work. Celestine strongly opposed the Novatians in Rome. Celestine died on the 26th of July, 432. He was buried in the cemetery of St. Priscilla in the Via Salaria, but his body, subsequently moved, now lies in the Basilica di Santa Prassede. In art, Celestine is portrayed as a pope with a dove, dragon, and flame, and is recognized by the Oriental Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, and Catholic churches as a saint. Saint Sixtus III was a Roman. His ascension to the papacy is associated with a period of increased construction in the city of Rome. Sixtus was born in Rome, and before his accession he was prominent among the Roman clergy and frequently corresponded with Augustine of Hippo. As pope, he attempted to restore peace between Cyril of Alexandria and John of Antioch. He also defended the rights of the pope over Illyria and the position of the Archbishop of Thessalonica as head of the local Illyrian church against the ambition of Proclus of Constantinople. His name is often connected with a great building boom in Rome. Santa Sabina on the Aventine Hill was dedicated during his pontificate. He built the Liberian Basilica as Santa Maria Maggiore, whose dedication to Mary, the Mother of God, reflected his acceptance of the Ecumenical Council of Ephesus, which closed in 431. At that council, the debate over Christ's human and divine natures turned on whether Mary could legitimately be called the Mother of God, or only Mother of Christ. The council gave her the Greek title Theotokos, literally God-bearer, or Mother of God, and the dedication of the large church in Rome is a response to that. His feast day is celebrated by Catholics on the 28th of March. Saint Leo I was a Roman. Pope Benedict XVI said that Leo's papacy was undoubtedly one of the most important in the Church's history. He was a Roman aristocrat and was the first pope to have been called the Great. He is perhaps best known for having met Attila the Hun in 452 and persuaded him to turn back from his invasion of Italy. He is also a doctor of the Church, most remembered theologically for issuing the Tome of Leo, a document which was a major foundation to the debates of the Council of Chalcedon, the Fourth Ecumenical Council. That meeting dealt primarily with Christology and elucidated the orthodox definition of Christ's being as the hypostatic union of two natures, divine and human, united in one person, with neither confusion nor division. It was followed by a major schism associated with monophysitism, miaphysitism, and diophysitism. He also contributed significantly to developing ideas of papal authority. In 1754, Pope Benedict XIV proclaimed Leo I a doctor of the Church. Next to Leo, only one other pope, Gregory I, is also recognized as doctor of the Church. Saint Hilarius was a Roman. Hilarius was born in Sardinia. As archdeacon under Pope Leo I, he fought vigorously for the rights of the Roman See. In 449, Hilarius served as a legate for Pope Leo I at the Second Council of Ephesus. His opposition to the condemnation of Flavian of Constantinople incurred the enmity of Dioscorus of Alexandria, who attempted to prevent him from leaving the city. Hilarius was able to make his escape and return to Rome by an indirect route. He later erected an oratory at the Lateran in honor of John the Evangelist, to whom he attributed his safe passage. Much of his pontificate was spent in maintaining ecclesiastical discipline in conformity with canon law and in settling jurisdictional disputes among the bishops of both Gaul and Spain. The Roman Synod of the 19th of November 465 held in the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore, which decided that Irenaeus, the nominated bishop, should quit the See of Barcelona and return to his former one, while the Spanish bishops were directed to condone the acts of Silvanus. This is the oldest Roman synod whose original records have survived. He would construct many buildings of faith and learning. SaintSimplius was a Roman. He combated the Eutychian heresy, ended the practice of consecrating bishops only in December, and sought to offset the effects of Germanic invasions. Simplicius defended the decisions of the Council of Chalcedon against the Eutychian heresy. In 478, Simplicius held a synod in Rome, which pronounced anathemas against Eastern heretical bishops Peter Fullo, John of Apamea, and Paul of Ephesus. Simplicius worked to maintain the authority of Rome in the West. In 482, he would get into conflict with Archbishop Joannes I of Ravenna for consecrating Bishop Gregory of Modena. According to the Carolingian liturgist Amalarius of Metz, Pope Simplicius was the first pope to carry out consecrations at any other time than in December before Christmas. He began to confer holy orders in February as well. Simplicius is credited with the construction of a church named Santa Bibiana. He also dedicated the church of San Stefano Rotondo on the Celian Hill, the church of St. Andrea near St. Maria Maggiore, and a church dedicated to St. Lawrence in the Campo Verano. He labored to help the people of Italy against the marauding raids of barbarian invaders. He saw the Herulian mercenaries revolt, depose Romulus Augustulus, the last emperor of the Western Roman Empire, and proclaim Odoacer king of Italy in 476. Odoacer made few changes in the administration in Rome, leaving the city firmly in the hands of its bishop. Saint Felix III was a Roman. His repudiation of the Henoticon is considered the beginning of the Acacian Schism. Felix was born into a Roman senatorial family, possibly the son of a priest. He was married and widowed before he was elected as pope. He fathered 2 children, and through his son Gordianus, a priest, was thought to be great-great-grandfather to Pope Gregory I and possibly related to Pope Agapetus I. It was also said that Felix appeared as an apparition to another of his descendants, his great-granddaughter Drusilla, an aunt of Pope Gregory I. He would have to contend with the heresy spread by Eutyches, an archimandrite at Constantinople who took the extreme opposite viewpoint of the Nestorian heresy. As Catholics spurned Emperor Zeno's edict, the emperor had driven the patriarchs of Antioch and Alexandria from their sees, leading Felix to excommunicate their replacements, an act that brought about a schism between East and West that was not healed until 519. In North Africa, conquered by Arian Vandals, persecution by King Genseric and his son and successor Huneric had driven many Catholic Romans into exile. When Huneric died, the persecutions lessened, and many who had forced rebaptisms as Arians yearned to return to the church. The Catholics appealed to Felix, who in turn sent a letter to the bishops of Africa. St. Gelatius was a Roman Berber. He was a prolific author whose style placed him on the cusp between late antiquity and the early Middle Ages. During his pontificate, he called for strict Catholic orthodoxy, more assertively demanded obedience to papal authority, and consequently increased the tension between the Western and Eastern churches. In 494, Gelatius authored the very influential letter Duo Sunt to Anastasius on the subject of the relation of church and state, which letter had political impact for almost a millennium after. He established the feast of St. Valentine of February 14th in 496. Anastasius II was a Greek. He was an important figure in trying to end the Acacian Schism, but his efforts resulted in the Laurentian Schism, which followed his death. Anastasius was born in Rome, the son of a priest, and is buried in St. Peter's Basilica. He is one of only 2 popes in the first 500 years of church history not to be canonized a saint in the Roman Catholic Church. Pope Liberius is also omitted from sainthood in the Roman Rite, although is considered a saint in the Eastern Rite. Due to his election as pope, the Roman Rite would remain divided, making reconciliation with the Church in Constantinople impossible. During the medieval period, he was often considered a traitor to the Catholic Church and an apostate. The writer of the Liber Pontificalis, supporting the opponents to Anastasius's efforts, argued that his death was divine retribution and that he had broken with the Church. Dante placed Anastasius II in the 6th circle of hell. St. Simonius was a Roman, born in Sardinia, then controlled by the Vandals. He would later be baptized in Rome and became archdeacon under the previous pope. His tenure was marked by a serious schism between supporters of the Byzantine Emperor Anastasius and Simonius. It is said that Theodoric the Great would hold the final decision, with Simonius possibly bribing his way to victory over his rival, the archpriest of Stanta Praesede Laurentius. Pope Simonius provided money and clothing to the Catholic bishops of Africa and Sardinia, who had been exiled by the rulers of the Arian Vandals. He also ransomed prisoners from Upper Italy and gave them gifts of aid. He was buried in St. Peter's Basilica.